Hey everybody! Today we're talking about data science collaboration in the real world, focusing on Git and GitHub. And since we're talking about collaboration, I thought it would be a good idea to bring in an actual working data scientist from the actual real world and talk a little bit about how some of these tools are actually used out there. So I'm joined by Megan Harris, data scientist at the PCCTC at Memorial Sloan Kettering. Did I get that right, Megan?
Yes, you did.
All right, I wrote it
Fantastic.
down and I thought I was still gonna botch it anyway. Megan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been doing this series on getting people started and using the basic tools for Git and GitHub. And so I wanted to ask you, as a working data scientist, what collaboration maybe actually looks like for you and maybe how those tools kind of enter into it.
Yeah, so I feel like, gosh, this is everyone's answer is going to be different for
Yeah,
this. But
absolutely.
I think that the main thing that people kind of forget, myself included, when it comes to collaboration is communication.
Mm,
Like, and I know that sounds so generic and so cliche, but
it's
like
so
it's
true.
so true.
Yeah, it is.
It's so true. So, I mean, at my job, like, yeah, we're mainly in our house. So
Okay.
we mainly program in our studio. All of us have like our studio connected to our Git and GitHub and stuff like that. But some of us also, in addition to using like whatever IDE and Git Bash terminals
Hmm.
or whatever, a lot of us also use GitHub Desktop, which
Yeah.
is the pretty the pretty interface for making a lot of those things look a little
Yep.
bit easier and less intimidating. So for me, collaboration involves using those tools, but then it also involves kind of leveraging the features of those tools to kind of enhance the communication
Hmm.
that I need to do. And I
Yeah.
feel like honestly, like I could like go forever into explaining it. So I'm gonna stop talking and I'm gonna let you answer the question.
So I have a lot of questions on this. So, I mean, let's start with like I guess a little bit more on the slightly technical side, just in terms of the workflows,
Yeah.
and what that kind of looks like when you're working on different pieces of code
Mhm.
or models or whatever that might mean for you
Sure.
with other people.
So, for us at our job, um, we have our cloned repositories on
Hmm.
our local machines. And then we obviously have the remote up there where we go to github.com and we see all whatever. But we also have another piece because we do work with PHI, we work with protective health
Okay.
information.
Yeah.
So we don't locally store like any data. We do have that like on a separate, cloud or whatever. Let's call it a cloud. So what a workflow will usually look like is, after you've cloned the repository for the project or whatever, you will pull in that data from the cloud. You will have like a separate workflow for whatever the deliverable is, whatever the task is. You'll have that in a separate branch, like when you're doing all of that stuff. And when you're done with that work and you think that like it's correct and it's ready to be rolled into your main branch,
Hmm.
you would push that up. And normally at that point, we are supposed to have someone code review.
Yeah.
And I say supposed to just because sometimes that doesn't happen in the real world.
I,
Sometimes
I
there's
I imagine
yeah.
everyone's just fighting for the opportunity to do that code review and
I mean, I personally like code reviewing.
okay.
I don't have a problem with it. Our issue is more uh bandwidth,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
which I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like is a common problem
Yeah, I
for
mean, code review
everyone.
is hard. It takes time. I end up
It
doing a lot
does.
of it just in my role. I look at a lot of student code,
Mm.
and it takes a lot of focus, I think.
It does. It takes a lot of focus, and I feel like my coworkers can definitely like speak to like very special frustrations, like with me,
Yeah, sure.
because I mean, I feel
Fair.
like you can also communicate about how you're going to approach code reviews, but your code reviews are going to be absolutely different, obviously, depending on like what the deliverable and stuff is, but also it's going to look different depending on who's coding. I
Yeah,
think
oh, very
that
much.
yeah, I think that for people that don't collaborate yet, right? So like we mentioned being in academia, like I
Yeah,
was in academia before here.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was a lone data scientist, like just by myself,
Yep.
So when I came to my current job, it was kind of like a culture shock almost of how
Yeah.
different people's coding styles were, you know?
Yeah.
Because me, I'm not gonna say my coding style's the best because it's not. I am absolutely self-taught. So like I do things in my mind that make sense, but
Yep.
like might not make sense to someone who like has like formal like software development
Yep.
education.
Yeah.
You know, but with my code also, it's like I have like all of these annotations because I'm like, I don't know what's going on
Yep.
sometimes. I need to remind myself. So when someone goes to like code review my stuff, it's just like, oh great, it's Megan's code. Like it's gonna be like all of this
It's
stuff,
yep.
all of these checks. But I'm like, no, because like I'm super like I don't know. I always joke that like I'm super anxious about my code. So like
Yeah.
I will do like all of these checks and like validation and like all of this stuff. And I'm just like,
Amazing.
nope, you got to code review that too. Sorry.
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, just on the topic of like commenting your code and all of this, I saw
Mhm.
the phrase. Maybe this is old, but I just saw it for the first time. I saw the phrase "apocalypse compliant" the other day. You
Okay,
know, if
explain that. What
like
is that?
that's where like okay, suppose like the zombies come and we all have to flee, or like there's the brain worms get to all of us and we've forgotten everything. We still have our skills, but we don't remember anything that's going on. Suddenly
Ah,
you don't get to use your own code. Somebody else is coming in and having to pick up the pieces.
I
That
see.
should still be a somewhat doable task.
Yeah, so I absolutely fall into that bucket. I
Yeah.
do. I fall into that bucket. And like I am honestly like it is literally like a common like development goal for me. Like I
Hmm.
am working towards trying to be more clear and concise
Yes.
in my communications and my coding. But for now, like even though like I follow standard naming
Yep.
conventions and stuff like that, like I do things that to the trained eye, like someone who knows programming, they
Sure.
should be able to read the code itself without the
Yeah.
annotations and they
That's right.
should understand what's going
Very
on.
good.
But I also will literally spell out like this is what's happening. And a part of that is because like we at the PCCCC, we are still kind of like forming like our own internal best practices
Yeah.
for like code review and like all this different stuff. So I know for like some of the stuff, like when I first got on board here, they were counting is very popular at my job like in terms of like we always say like counting is
Counting?
hard. Yes, counting is hard because we make a lot of I mean think about it, we have clinical trials data sets,
Uh-huh.
but we have to make a lot of tables, a lot of
Mhm.
listings, a lot of figures. So one of the most basic things you can do to validate your code is to count it. So when I got on board, there was a lot of scripts that had just like random count functions, like just dplyers count functions,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
but with no explanation of what I was supposed to be looking for. So
yeah.
I was just like, hmm. So
Somebody knew. Somebody knew at
so
one point
right. So
when they wrote
now
it.
I've adopted the counting. I understand how important counting is, but I will literally say we are looking for these cases to match up this way. We are looking for no rows. We are looking for no duplicates to be
Yeah.
counted. Like I'm very explicit about what should be like arising. And I do that now and I kind of somewhat hate it because it takes a lot of time and
Yeah.
effort, but it makes it more efficient like when I pass off that work for someone else to collaborate on.
Yeah.
Because nine times out of 10, like if you actually take the time to do little checks like that, that might seem like duh, like,
Yeah.
you actually recover, like you like discover like so many things that like someone else doesn't have to discover
Yeah.
because you found it first.
Yeah. 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 So you were one of the words you used like right at the beginning of this was
Mm,
communication. And I feel like
yes.
we've been talking about that kind of the whole way through. And so
Yep.
I just wanted to ask you like a little bit more about communication and data science.
Mhm,
And I'm also thinking about like you're talking about code that's being shared.
mhm,
Potentially, like I mean I prompted this or what prompted this conversation was about Git and GitHub
mhm,
collaboration tools. So I wanted to ask you sort of like when we're thinking about communication, how much of is that is like technical through like the
mhm.
pull requests and so on, and how much of it is like I need to send an email or walk down the hall and talk to my
Hmm.
collaborator?
Okay,
And how does
so
that interface?
yeah, so I can kind of explain. So just to give a little background, obviously, like we have a data science department, but we also have a data management department. We have a clinical operations department. We
Okay.
have other departments. Yeah. So obviously data managers, well, not obviously, because some data managers might, have coding skills, but if you are not in data science, like the data science department, it is assumed that you do not know how to code, you do not interface with
Yeah.
GitHub, whatever.
Okay.
So, what ends up happening, at least what I do, is I will use like the pull requests on GitHub
Hmm.
as a main core of like a transcript of everything,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, like we have a system where unfortunately, we use Microsoft. So we have like
Same here.
Microsoft Teams and stuff like that, you
Yep.
know? So we have a kind of a makeshift system, which I think is well made, but it's makeshift. So essentially we have a form, right? Where everything starts. We have a form where if you are requesting something from data science, you fill out that form
Okay.
and you give us information, standard information that we need.
Oh, I see.
So based off of that, that comes into us, and then we make the decision right there of like, okay, do I need to talk to somebody first before I get started? Like, do I need to start making a plan? Is this something simple, like just refreshing code that's
Yeah.
already been made, things like that. So regardless, we'll get that request in, and I think everyone else at my job will always create a new branch, no matter what, off of the main branch of whatever project. Because at our job, we have like a whole bunch of like studies, and each study has their own repo. Like it does not
Makes sense.
cross at all.
Yeah.
So if I get a request in, I will make a new branch and I will do all of the work or refreshing or whatever on that branch, and then I will push it up, right? But if I have things where like I need someone from another department to give me an okay, or I need someone from my department to give me okay, or like I don't know how to move on with stuff, I always document everything in the pull request, even if it's something that's not technical, even if it's a conversation that happened like offline. So when
Great. Wow.
yeah, so when you look at, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I think I'm the only one that does this at my
I
job.
mean, I was about to say that sounds like a pretty
Yeah,
elite level of documentation that we
I'm
all should
I
aspire to, but
well, so I always
hard.
joke that like because I made this public knowledge. So at the beginning of 2023 or at the end of 2022, like crossover, I actually had a major like health thing. Like I went out for like Christmas
Yeah.
vacation and like almost died. Like really, really I did. Like I had like a acute kidney injury.
Oh
So
no.
I was just gone, right,
Yeah.
for weeks. And ever since then, like when I came back finally, one of the first things I thought about when I looked at my code was like, crap, I didn't comment any of this. Like there
Yeah.
was no
That's like it's like my mom telling me to make sure I'm always wearing clean underwear so that
yeah.
in case I'm in a car wreck, in case your kidney bursts, your code had better be documented.
Exactly. I know, and like I that it's just funny that that was like the jumping off point because obviously anyone like
Oh, that's
reading or listening
hilarious.
to this, do put your health is more important than anything else, okay?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
don't kill yourself. But because of that though, I really do like to have like a good clean transcript of like
Yeah.
everything that happened.
Yeah.
So like if I come across anything weird in the data, like I will put it in the I believe like when you create a pull request, there's a tab, and I think it's called the conversation tab. And
Yep.
that's going to be the first tab that's generated like once you just create a pull request.
Okay.
So yeah, like in that we have a pull request template that pops up like no matter what study, that's just our
Okay.
own internal thing. And in that template, there's like a checklist of like, oh, hey, did you check the count of this? Did you do that? Did you make sure there's no duplicates? Like we have things.
Hmm.
And that has been something that's been like iterated on and created as a result
Yeah.
of I always feel like a lot of my mess ups, but like other people's mess ups too.
Yeah.
But then under that, I kind of look at the conversation tab as just like free reign of transcripting, like
Yeah.
everything. So I'm like, yeah, I was on this call with this person and they said this, but then this person said this. So like I have a clear record
Oh.
of everything that happens.
Yeah.
And then like if anything external like affects the code, I will Like I will literally like pull out the line of code like that's affected and I will put it in there. Because
Yeah.
when
Oh,
you,
okay.
yeah, because when you go to like a separate file on GitHub that's like in the pull request,
Mm-hmm.
you have an option to copy the permalink. So when you put a permalink inside like one of the conversation like
Yeah.
tabs, it will show like a nice little pretty snippet of whatever you copied.
Oh, I haven't used this.
Yeah, so like I'll do stuff like that and just like that comes in handy
That's really cool.
because yeah, that comes in handy because my supervisor, Shannon Pileggi,
Yeah,
a lot of people know her. She's amazing. But because she's so amazing, she's so busy.
that comes
So
across.
a lot of times, like if Shannon is code reviewing my stuff, I will literally pull out like this is what you need to look at,
Yeah.
like this is important, like whatever. And I will use a combination of like the snippets and using labeling on GitHub to like, like I'll label something as needs review or label something as blocked because I can't do anything. I have like a whole internal system that I know only I do.
Mm-hmm.
But if anybody has questions about anything, they can probably find it themselves.
That's
So
amazing.
I just do the work for it. It's fine.
Um, okay. So,
See, I
man,
hate when
I
people
need to
ask
up.
because I have no, because I told people I'm like, I'm supposed to at some point have like a Our Ladies workshop or meetup
Uh-huh.
or something kind of explaining all the things that I do.
Yeah.
But time has not just worked out for that yet.
I
So I'm
mean,
just always like, look, I can only like scratch the surface for you because there's a lot.
yeah. I mean, you mentioned about Shannon Pileggi doing a ton.
Yeah.
She's not the only one. There's
Yeah.
just not enough hours in the day. Um, I need to up my game on some of these things. Like I work hard on my best practices and like I'm really, really trying to do this, but you're putting me to shame.
Uh,
What goes wrong? And I don't mean for like what do you do wrong? I just mean like in this process of collaborating with other
oh,
people. Like
yeah.
I know that when you're
Ugh.
interfacing with the public or with other collaborators, just things go wrong even if they're like the best people in the world. So like what kind of train wrecks do you encounter?
Train wrecks.
Well, it
So
doesn't have
I
to be that bad. I'm
Well, I mean,
sorry.
honestly, like I feel like we worked out the kinks pretty well of our process. So I
Yeah.
want to say like we don't have too many train
Okay.
wrecks nowadays, but
What should I watch
um
out for then?
so okay, so on my project that I'm on, my study, the clinical trial that I do the data science stuff for,
Hmm.
it's like one of our biggest studies, and it's something that's like it's a phase 3, and like it's actually super close to going to the FDA. Like it's a big deal, right? And as a result of that, like it's also a global study. So not only do we have data coming from this country, we have data
Okay.
coming from Brazil, from Spain, like all this stuff. So because we keep all of the study stuff in one
Yeah.
project, if you have people that come and are just like, oh, hey, remember that thing you gave me 2 weeks ago? I just found something with it. Can you fix it? But then in the same breath, someone's just like, hey, and this other thing, right? But you can't, you have to keep, at least our hard rule is that you have to keep the work for each deliverable, each task, whatever, siloed on the branch you're on.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, so that's where it can get a little crazy because we're trying to get things out the door. Some of these things are pressing, some of these things are not.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, and
You'd
well,
like to
I
just
think
go in and change two lines of code, but instead you have to make two different branches.
right. So I think a big like it's not that like that big of a deal, but something that I
Yeah.
think happens frequently is we have a I don't know if you're familiar with what a YAML file is or like if your
Hmm.
audience is familiar with that. So we use a YAML file for each project to kind of control data cut dates, right? Because we have a whole bunch of different data sources and whatever. So if one like task requires a different data cut date and you're like, oh, okay, let me like switch this real quick and but you didn't save it, like there's like cross contamination
Yeah.
of things like going on. So that's one way things can get messed up. Another way is that if a
Contamination's a
few
good word. I like that. That comes up
yeah
in a lot of different contexts in data science.
um
You did, yeah.
yeah, a few weeks ago, I want to say not too long ago, like maybe 2 weeks ago, we just had like a whole free for all for this project that I'm on because we like there was just so much due like out of nowhere.
Uh-huh.
So it was kind of like this entire thing of like, okay, I needed to make changes to like the main file and like I pushed it in, but we got like 15 pull requests that are now being changed off of that. So that can definitely cause like issues, I
Yeah.
think, and that I think would be the most common issue for other people. I'm not gonna lie, like I don't see it as a big deal
Yeah.
because that's just dealing with merge conflicts. And I literally gave an entire talk about merge conflicts at,
I
Max
I
last year.
I have a video about merge conflicts. I would rather link yours because yours is more fun. And I mean, I deal with it occasionally on my own and have felt like comfortable doing it for a long time. But I saw your
Mhm,
talk at PositConf 2020.
mhm.
Was it
I think that was last year.
2024, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Numbers are messed up in my mind,
No,
which is
that's
great
fine.
for
No
a
worries.
mathematician. But it was entertaining as well as just sort of calming to hear about conflicts in
Yeah.
such a sort of like just chill kind of.
Yeah, so like now though, like, because I'm not gonna lie, like I'm still like I still like look at that and I'm like, oh my God, like I've never thought that I would get to this point of being this comfortable with
Yeah,
Git.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
like before I like logged on to have this chat with you, I was kind of like trying to think like when did I become comfortable? And my answer is I don't know. I don't know when I became comfortable.
What would did
Like I woke up one day and I was like, ah, it's fine, I can do
it's funny, like I don't use Git as in its like as part of my work in the same way, you know?
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I do use it regularly in a sort of lower stakes way. And over
Yeah.
time I've gotten a real level of comfort with these
Yeah.
different things with, whether it's managing pull requests, conflicts, just
Mhm.
general workflows. I don't know when
Mhm.
that happened. How did you start using Git and GitHub? Pick one or the other
Well,
or both.
yeah, no, I absolutely used Git and GitHub like in my previous position, but that was different because it was technically academia and I
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
alone or whatever. So like I knew the bare basics of like, oh, how to like,
yeah,
get my stuff up there, but that was
yeah.
it. And then when I started working here, this is my first position in which like I am with an official like data science team and I'm not the only coder. So it was definitely like a learning curve, trying to like get everything and understand how to not break things and stuff like that. But I think what kind of helped me to kind of just start trying a bit more to like, oh, let me try to like
Yeah.
do this, let me try to whatever. Um, is because I when you understand like the concept of version control,
Yeah.
you realize that your stuff is actually pretty safe depending on how you set up your repository,
Yeah.
right? So, like us, we have rules in place, which everybody has access to these rules. I think they can go into their settings for your
Hmm.
repository. You can make it so that you cannot merge directly into your main branch. You have to do it off of a separate PR. You could have a check in there that you are not allowed to merge your branches into main unless someone else has explicitly reviewed it. Like we
Okay.
have a whole bunch of checks in place. So
That's
once I
fantastic.
realized that was there, I was just like, you know what? It doesn't matter if I mess this up because a good version is there. Like it's okay. So that kind of allowed me to kind of like look into it more and like, yeah, I can do this. Um, so then like in addition with that, like I have my own personal GitHub and all that
Hmm.
stuff too. So then it was just like, well, personal GitHub is low stakes too. So I kind of used that
Yeah.
as the training of like, ah, yeah, let me make sure I can do this. Let me make sure I can do that. So I think it just like slowly,
I,
evolved.
I I think that that sort of flow that you just described is probably like one that it's an experience that a lot of people have, right?
Hmm.
Where and it was certainly mine where I decided, I have some stuff that I want to put on to
Hmm.
GitHub. I want to start creating a portfolio for myself.
Hmm.
Um, Another thing you mentioned I kind of wanted to point out was
Yeah.
or that another experience that I had that I think is really like something maybe you were experiencing as well is
Hmm.
when I was first dealing with Git, I was intimidated and worried that I was going to break my
Yeah.
computer.
Yeah.
I thought, oh my God, I'm in the terminal.
Hmm.
And just, for everyone that maybe doesn't know, I'm not a coder sort of by training. I've become one in my work in a lot of ways, but I'm a mathematician. And so, it's all just like stuff I've figured out over time,
Yeah.
self-taught, etc. And I was just terrified that when I opened up that terminal, I was going to just melt the thing down. And
Yeah.
I still remember the first time I switched branches on a project and saw that a file was just not there.
Gone.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is awful. Oh my God, what have I done? I should not be empowered to do this.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
but it's
Absolutely.
okay, right?
Yeah.
Is the
It
thing
is.
is obviously you're practicing at first, but the recognition that the stakes aren't that high.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, like, now I'm kind of like thinking about it as well. I think for my job specifically, um, we used to have an amazing person that worked here that left us. I don't know if you're aware of him, Daniel Soberg, the creator of GT Summary.
Ah,
So he used to work with us for a tiny bit. And he said one of the most like profound things to me, or something that I was just like, oh my God, this changed my life. So he had said to me, he said, Megan, we were dealing with a Git problem, and he's just like, why don't you just use GitHub Desktop? And
yeah.
I'm like, why? I was like, wait, what? I feel like I am supposed to like do everything from our studio. Like, what
Uh-huh.
do you mean?
Yeah.
And at that time, like I was too afraid to use the terminal because I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not looking at the like literally the like just visually seeing a different font was just like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So having this person with decades of experience who has like
Saying,
all these major impacts, R packages, and
yeah.
like an amazing developer telling me it's okay to use GitHub Desktop, I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, what? Okay. So I
Yeah.
want to say that using GitHub Desktop actually kind of helped me to embrace the terminal, right?
That makes
Because once you
sense.
actually start getting better, you'll be like, oh, I need to do this specific thing. And you'll Google and find out,
Yeah.
oh, I can't do this specific thing. But like because you have a better sense of like what it is you want to do,
Yeah.
because GitHub Desktop has been like, teaching you about like the structure of everything by putting it in a nice, pretty, UI. Um, you understand like, oh, okay, I need to learn how to cherry pick something, or like I need
Yes.
to rebase, you know? So I want to say like using GitHub Desktop actually really helped me to get more better with the
Yeah.
terminal.
I think that's really good advice. I
Yeah.
think it's good not to be afraid of putting commands in the terminal, but I
Mhm.
think at the opposite extreme, thinking you have to do everything through there, or
Yeah.
much less that everything should be done just one way or another through our studio, or
Hmm.
VS Code or whatever you might be working on is
Hmm.
also just that kind of rigid thinking is going to make
Yeah,
you less
no,
happy, less successful.
right.
I
Because
think
I
that's
can
great
absolutely
advice.
say, like, on a daily, I literally do. I'm in our studio, or I'm in the terminal, or I'm in GitHub Desktop, or I'm on GitHub. Like, everything is just like,
Yeah,
everything's open. Like, I'm just
yeah.
bouncing around, like, depending on what works better at that time. Yeah.
So you mentioned your personal GitHub and some.
Mhm.
So how do you use your GitHub when you're I mean just talking about for personal stuff, not for work, because I know you have a an interesting portfolio there, and I want to know the story.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like I can't even remember like when I started my GitHub or whatever like that. I think it was like 2019.
Okay.
It was when Twitter was still a thing and
Yeah.
not contaminated and all that stuff. Um, but I think I had actually started using GitHub because I um I had created a personal website. I had
Hmm.
created a personal website that at the time was made like entirely in a third party platform. Like it wasn't coded, right?
Yeah.
But I had blog posts and I'm like, oh, like I need to be able to share this code to have these
Yeah.
example. So it started with that. And then I had learned how to create a website myself, like with first with Distill, but
Okay.
now it's a Cardo
Okay.
website. So I had to use it for that. And then when I started doing like meetups and talks and PositConf or RStudioConf at the time, like I needed repositories to hold that stuff in
That makes
space and
sense.
disseminate my stuff and my slides. And then within the last, what, like 2 years, I absolutely use it because I have my own package that I develop. I have my
What's
own
the
package that
what's the
I,
package? Let everybody know.
yeah, it's Art Pack, which I actually just made a update on, but I didn't
Hey.
push it to Cran yet. But yeah, it's on Cran, but like I
That's
I have like the development version. I'm working on it.
the
So
you know
Yeah.
on a different day sometime we should talk about the sort of CRAN process and that whole experience. I have
Yeah.
a package up there as well.
Honestly,
And
I'm not gonna lie, the crayon process for me wasn't that
no, it wasn't bad. I'm not here to
bad.
complain about it, but it's just it was an interest. No, not at
Yeah,
all. Just but everything about making my first package
it was a big thing.
was growth and learning and pushing
Hmm.
myself in new directions
Yeah, absolutely.
that I imagine you can relate to in some ways
Hmm.
and also have a lot that's different.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you decided so for the package that's on GitHub. How like is it a is strictly a sort of portfolio and link for people, or are you using this in your sort of workflow? Are people making
So
pull requests? I hardly have any of those for mine.
yeah, so I actually try really hard not to have any pull requests or issues because I'm really anal about what I make public. So,
Yeah,
so
that's other more good advice. More good
yeah,
advice.
I
Be
mean,
public,
that's just
be
because I have
judicious about it.
anxiety.
Yeah.
That's just because I have anxiety. No, so I actually, so even though, so I think a good example is actually my Pardo website, right?
Okay.
So my own personal website that has been built through the Pardo engine. So I actually use the issues for that repository to park like blog ideas.
Oh, I like
Um,
that.
yeah, and like I'll label it like blog idea, or like if I see like a typo somewhere and I don't have time to fix it, I'll be like, okay,
Yeah.
there. I do the same thing with Art Pack. Like if there are things that like I want to develop or issues with documentation, whatever, like I will go ahead and make my own issues to keep track of things.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to think like because I think that's mainly what I use the personal GitHub for. Like I don't really do any more extensive than that. I would imagine that once Art Pack kind of like gets a little bit more development, that maybe there'll be a little bit more traffic on that, and I'll deal with that when that comes. But it is what it is.
What's
Um,
sorry, didn't mean to cut you
mhm.
off.
No, it's okay. I was gonna just also say like I also do have to use my personal GitHub for some of PCCCC's public facing packages
Okay.
because we do have a few. So I can't use my work GitHub account to like connect to that or whatever. But yeah. Mhm.
Tell us a tiny bit about what Art Pack is.
RPack's my baby. RPack is the
Yeah.
first package I ever made. And it is a data-centric package that is supposed to act as like a comprehensive toolkit for creating artistry using ggplot 2. So the functions in it, they focus on giving the user direct like data frames that if you take that and pass that into a ggplot with different options, you will get something pretty.
Oh, I love it. So we're talking about
Yeah.
generative art here. If only there were an example of generative art visible to my audience at this instant.
I mean,
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
yeah, I do love this picture, but yeah,
And
that's funny.
and you mentioned a personal website. What's that?
Oh yeah, the tidytrekker.com.
Tidy
That's my
Tracker? I'll
personal.
put a link to
Yeah.
that as well
The
for
tidy tracker. You gotta remember the the.
the. Okay, yeah, I you never know where you'll go if you leave out that the. Ah, Megan, this is so great. Thank you. It's just I'm smiling and laughing throughout this whole conversation. I'm sure everybody else is as well, and just
Of
learning a ton. Thank you so much for taking this time.
course.
Bye.
Bye.